The battle of the beetles. I think it's over. I hope it's over. Maybe I'm dreaming it's over, but I think the battles with the beetles is over for this spring on our farm. Welcome to the second Pitura Seed Farm agronomy video updates, where we are sharing with you what we're seeing, what we're doing, and what we're learning. So let's jump into canola. First off, canola, we all know it can be a sensitive Sally when it's young, and that's what we saw this year when we dealt with some excessive rainfall early. We're doing some plant stand counts and assessing what percent of low holes are stressed or behind. And the other thing we're learning is tire tracks, compaction. Really struggling where we had compaction from the air cart and tractor. Water sat on that ground for just 1 or 2 days longer, and we saw anywhere from a 30 to a 60% mortality than right here, where we didn't have that kind of compaction. This was in a field that was subsoiled 2 years ago, so the water didn't sit near as much or as long as fields on our farm that we haven't subsoiled. So that's something we learned this spring. The second thing we're looking at right now is assessing for weed control, and most importantly, disease infection. We are setting up for a year that could be some of the strongest pressure of blackleg and verticillium wilt combined in a long time. In fact, so long ago, it was 2016 when we saw blackleg infect our plants early at that 3 to 5 leaf stage. Because of that, we suffered significant yield, lots of lodging. We also learned about verticillium wilt in 2016. And so I get the feeling, based on the moisture and the temperature, we're going to be setting ourselves up for a high risk. So what are we going to do about it? On fields with tight canola rotations or residue left from even 3 years ago, we're going to be making sure those are the fields we're throwing in a fungicide to help prevent that primary infection of blackleg early on with our herbicide. We may have cheated on a rotation on one half section where it's canola, wheat, canola. That field, without a question, is going to get a Nexicor or a Priaxor application. And the number 3 thing we're looking at right now is nitrogen. How much nitrogen is going to be available for the crop if we have a big crop coming? We've had lots of rainfall. We've been susceptible to losses. So we're going to zip over to our field where we did a ESN trial. We put 30 pounds of ESN in furrow where we seeded. And the objective of that mission was to try to get more nitrogen available late in the season. So in about 10 days, we're going to be soil sampling that field. And we're going to be trying to determine if that ESN is now available later in the growing season during cabbage, and most importantly, bolting, to help bolster those yields. So stay tuned for results of our ESN in furrow trial versus top dressing UAN at that bolting stage. Those are the 3 things in canola: plant population, sensitive Sally canola that we're assessing. Number 2, blackleg and verticillium management, prevention, control. And number 3, making sure there's enough nitrogen in our ESN and UAN trial. So now we're going to flip over to a crop that's even more exciting right now, which is cereals. If you are a cereal plant, this is the best time of the year. Why? No, it's not because another new crop of Aggies, shout out to the Aggies, convocated at the University of Manitoba and are entering the field to take care of the wheat plants of the future. It's because we're entering some of the longest days of the year, and with that is the optimal temperatures for cereals. If you're a cereal plant, you are going to be blowing the bins up, I hope. Let's get it there. Why? We haven't been over 25 degrees yet this spring, and cereals love cool conditions, especially when we're going from that 3-leaf to that 6-leaf stage. That is where the number of kernels is getting developed in your head. And we have had optimal moisture, maybe a little too much. Don't look at the yellow patches back there. Optimal moisture and optimal temperatures for strong stem, strong cells, and a lot of tillers. We're anticipating plant stand counts of 5 million heads per acre in this SY Manus field, because we're averaging 28 to 30 plants a square foot, and we're getting anywhere from 4 to 6 tillers per plant. This is exciting stuff. I haven't been this excited about cereal production since 2017. So what do we need to do on the Pitura seed farm and on your farm to make sure we maximize these optimal growing conditions? Things we're thinking about: making sure our weed control is good. We're following up after herbicides, making sure they're all dead. That's number one. Number two, do the fields need to be managed or have high risk of lodging? You can check out a video that we just posted on, do you need a growth regulator, or should you be applying a growth regulator? And number three, where is the nitrogen in your soil, and is the plant going to access it at the right time? We are entering at this growth stage 30 to 32 maximum nitrogen uptake from now until the head is emerging from that boot. So we need lots of nitrogen available. So make sure your nitrogen values are where they need to be in order for you to hit those numbers that are 10, 20, and maybe even 30% above your long-term averages, because that's the kind of year cereals are shaping up to be. So that's a lot of optimism. However, that's what we're seeing on the farm, and that's what I'm seeing in customers' fields. So pay attention to your cereals. It is not a poverty grass this year. Let's push the limits and see what we can get out of this. And finally, to wrap it up, fungicide timing. It's 1 o'clock, my boots are wet, walking through this 6-leaf wheat, high risk of disease. Let's make sure we keep our cereal leaves clean. We're seeing some of it on the bottom. We've got septoria and tan spot showing up. So those are things we're looking for right now. And if you need help looking for it, let us know. Again, quickly to summarize, growth regulator potential. Do we need to be applying at now, growth stage 30, 32? Do we have nitrogen values, and are we suppressing our disease? Keep that in mind when you walk your cereal field. And until then, we'll see what we can do out here. Pre-emergent sprays. I don't know how many times I've heard, I never have enough time to get them on. And then in the same sentence, but I never regret it. And that's what I want to show you here today. Pre-emergent sprays on a year where we've had over 6 inches of rain, from where we've applied it in our non-GMO soybeans to 32 days later, we've had 6 inches of rain. The number of days we could be in this field has been super limited, and we are still seeing control. I'll pull it just for the camera. We're still seeing control of our Authority Supreme working in this field. I think that's a stinkweed. That's how shriveled up it is. Canola, stressed, bolting at 3 inches tall. It is doing its job, and it's one of those things that, looking back, you're so glad you do it. At the time, it's so hard to get it done right at seeding because you got a million other things on the go. But what I want to showcase is, in a year like this, soil water activated herbicides can be the difference between 1 pass in your soybeans and 2. We're anticipating on this field only having to go once, because we've got at least another 2 weeks where our weed pressure is not going to be inhibiting any yield potential. And in 2 more weeks' time, we're hopefully going to be a lot closer to cabbaging. So that's what we're seeing with pre-emergent herbicides, where we applied versus where they did not get applied. So that's it for the second episode of the Pitura Seed Farm agronomy video updates. Depending on what you want to see next week, shoot us a text, call, Snapchat, WhatsApp, you name it. Let us know and we'll get it incorporated into the video. Until then, good luck keeping those dry feet and those plants growing.